Hi, everybody. Edition of Moohead Radio. I'm your host, a big and furry bovine. And joining me is Tony the Calf and Brian. And here's the man, Bronk. We just kicked him in. Hello there. And today we got lots to talk about, but I think there's one story that is raised and elevated above all others, and that's the even dozen of women who have stepped up against Deshaun Watson to declare that he committed inappropriate acts while in the presence of body workers, which are massage therapists. And I don't know any of the women, but when one
came, you go in and shoot them all or something.
Well, no, I mean, those are not massage therapists. Those are Jack Shacks. And there's, and it took them forever to find out who the people that were dead were, because they're not citizens here. They're it's part of slave trades. It's just like the Bob Kraft story that we already did this story about. Yep. That these women are slave trade, and the communities like in Atlanta that allow these businesses to be open are being paid off under the table by Koreans. It's that simple. But at any rate,
sorry I distracted you.
No. The story with Deshaun Watson is really a story that is, it starts out with 1, then it's 2, then it's 3, and now it's up to 12. And the deniability.
Do I hear 15? Do I hear 18?
Yeah.
Going once, going twice, sold.
It's the deniability factor is just not going to be there anymore. And now the NFL is in a hell of a position because one of their big names, so to speak, and we're going to add Derek here to the stream as well. Hi, Derek. How you doing?
Hello.
Hi. When the NFL has a big marketing name like this, if 12 women come forward and say Deshaun Watson did this, and the 12 women don't know one another, it would be very hard for me to believe that they're making it up. And what it means is that Deshaun Watson has done something far worse than Colin Kaepernick, who's never played in the NFL ever again. So I'm not going to sit here and say guilty, innocent. All I'm going to say is if it turns out that this is true, he should never be allowed to play in the NFL again. He should not be allowed in any way, shape, or form to sign a big contract. He is not going to be obligated by his employer to make the money. And all the talk of I want to be traded and I want to be traded to a better team will just go away, because what was more important, if this is the case, was his penis and not his profession. All right. So right off the bat, I have a zero tolerance for people who falsely accuse, all right, and also for people who do stuff like that. I just have zero tolerance. And I've been an advocate of massage therapy my whole life, and I would never have been able to still be playing tennis to this day. I own a massage chair. I have, for the better part of my life, in the last few years, I've given it up because of my back. I know that Topo Gijo would understand why you wouldn't want somebody railing up on your spine. It's like I gave up my chiropractor too, It's like some things you can't have anymore. But, women who are working, who have skills and abilities and are this ridiculous thing that some men think that hand-to-body contact gives them the right to do certain things. And it's Harvey Weinstein. It's the story of so many other things. I know that we're living in an age right now where there's going to be zero tolerance, and you're going to see people like Woody Allen put on public trial when he's 90 years old. And that isn't what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about goofy people who are trying to make a political statement. I'm just talking about plain justice, and it's really a shame. And Stephen Rose, I did sit and watch a few minutes of one of his 4-hour diatribes, And to be very honest with you, I didn't realize that he was such a pro-Trump person, but it makes sense now that
Hey, by the way, I'm
Yeah.
so glad you were joking yesterday because I was genuinely concerned because I literally was trying to find on social media if he had any recent posts because, and we don't have to get into it, but as soon as you said that, I was like, what?
No, I
So,
was joking. Well, I'll tell everybody what it was. I was joking with Derek is that Stephen was going to commit suicide because, on top of the Rockets, he's on this 18-game losing binge with the Houston Rockets, and his programs begin with adding up the consecutive losses, and the misery is just all over him. And then to find out that the one bright spot in the organization that has gone down the crapper, and he's a huge Texans fan, and to find out now that this is happening with Deshaun
And
Watson.
I sent you a picture somebody had edited of Cosby's face over
Right.
Deshaun Watson with the pads on, which I thought was funny. I was just sending.
Well, they
it
weren't
to you.
unconscious, though. These women were awake and able to tell about it. So, at any rate, this story.
Wow, there's no jokes here, really, is there? Yeah.
No, I mean, this is
No jokes.
an unfortunate thing, and it's something that's going to be dealt with. And I'll be curious to see how the league handles one thing as opposed to another. But I don't think
If Watson were only a prominent Democrat politician, he'd be perfectly okay.
Oh, here we go.
No, I don't believe that it's a political thing, but I do believe one thing, and that's that when,
Well, just look at any Kennedy. There you go.
well, again, I can think of families of privilege on both sides, and that it's not a political thing for me, because everything ends up political in this country. It is a matter of justice, and it's too bad because Deshaun Watson's a talented quarterback, and this is something that is worse than fighting dogs.
Well, it makes me wonder how long they knew about these allegations because they've now gone out and signed 2 quarterbacks. They traded for one, and then they signed Tyrod Taylor.
Well, they got to do whatever they got to do.
Tyrod Taylor's not a quarterback, though. For God's sakes.
No, I mean,
Either is Ryan Finley. Let's
yeah,
be
I wouldn't call either one of them quarterbacks.
let's face it, if we were Texans fans, it would be like we're going into the year with Deshaun Watson and Tyrod Taylor. And it's like, why couldn't Tyrod Taylor been the one who did this with massage therapists?
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
he would make the news, though, would he? If Tyrod Taylor had
this
done
is
it,
a big
he'd
story.
make the
And
news.
And the way these things go, by the way, is that, once 1 or 2 or 3, and then they start popping up all over. This is how the Harvey Weinstein.
Like a virus.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if it was repeated behavior, believe me, you'll be hearing from more in not too long. And this is more about dollars and cents. It's a civil suit, but it's going to become in the legal field real quick.
So
Let's
what's
get
up with Stephen Rose, then? Why is he doing 4-hour rants on
because
YouTube?
he's
That's what he does.
he's just a Trump supporter who's become literally I don't know what's the word.
No, he's always done
Unhinged?
these marathon fucking screwball.
Yeah, he's been
He's
doing
doing
this.
This is
for a while.
not. This is not a new thing. Just since Trump has been out of office.
But he
This
sure
goes
talked
back
a
a
lot
ways.
about it. He sure talked, but of course, in 4 hours, you would tend to cover a lot of ground. I think.
You should see the
He's
other
doing
shit
a
he
whole
talks
radio
about.
show.
Transgenders and fucking how education systems are useless and
Does he?
Yeah.
the
He
whole
used to
time
talk
while he's
about
talking?
dating.
Yeah.
God forbid we should educate ourselves. That would be the
Yeah.
worst thing we could do. Let's talk sports. And I started out with
Why not?
Deshaun Watson is a sport story, but we're more interested in the Cleveland Browns, and a lot of things
We
have
are.
happened. I've been in a lot of contact with Derek because I know Derek is really, as we get closer to the college draft scenario, he's my new, frying pan sports guy. He's Bill Smith, right?
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
the young Bill Smith.
Yeah.
And so it's great having Derek's presence on the show to be able to talk about this. This is, of course, now free agency. And I wanted to start this whole conversation about whether or not, in each of our panelists' opinion, that Barry is doing a good job was something that when you read all of the posts on Twitter and, Browns fandom, from the high highs to the low lows, the lulls, and then not the Joe lulls, but the lulls, the highs.
Ah, Jesus Christ, you're just pulling out all the references today.
Yes,
Wow.
I am. It's you have to remember who you're dealing with here. And the first people who jump out in free agency and pay the top dollar are not analytics-based front offices, okay? I mean, they want to see, an analytics person needs to see what the market is before they make an offer. I mean, this is the basis of it.
Because they don't have analytics before there's no offers, there's no analytics there. They'll analyze about.
Yeah,
Well, they got to crunch the numbers like Gary the numbers guy.
that's right. And
11, 11, 11, 11, 11, 11, 11.
So from my perspective, I mean, the whole Browns front office is sitting back saying, okay, we don't really have an interest in whoever the top person is as a pass rusher. Let's see what he goes for. And then you start seeing some of these numbers being thrown out there. And the first thing the analytics groups do is go, yeah, because, it's like, God, I thought we had some cap room. It's like, with the numbers these things are going for. But usually it's, desperate teams who are looking to make a splash. And I want people to understand that we went from one extreme basically to another. John Dorsey did a fine job for the Cleveland Browns. Don't get me wrong. Dorsey is an old school general manager.
Oh, hey, by the way, have you seen, I don't mean to interrupt, but have you seen the, I guess you would call it a collage of John Dorsey at every place he's been in the same type of clothes, but with a different team's gear, like he wore in Cleveland with the dress shirt under it, with the sweater over in the hat. There's a picture on Twitter. If I can find it, I'll try to send it to you. But there's one where it's like 5 or 6 different teams with the Packers and the Chiefs and now the Lions. It's pretty funny to see after so many years. He's just dead set on that.
Well, I mean, he's dead set on the way he does things. And the way he does things are he's an experienced, seasoned general manager. He has experience what he does. And he goes by gut feelings and not just what is being put in front of him as far as numbers are
It's like an
concerned.
old school A&R guy in radio who goes out and sees bands, and he can tell whether a band's going to be a hit maker or not be a hit maker because he actually listens to them.
Don Kirshner, the man with the golden ears, So what we have is from one extreme, which is Dorsey saying, this is what I want to do. And so you end up with OBJ, you make a big splash like that kind of thing. And it hasn't worked out so well. But on the other hand, you go for the gusto with Baker Mayfield, and that's worked out, with Nick Chubb. And it's like, exactly.
And even Denzel Ward at 4, that was a little bit of a reach
Yeah,
for
that was a
some people.
reach.
Yeah.
That was considered a reach at the time, definitely.
So I look at it and say we're going from that to a much more guarded perspective. And if the Browns fans were thinking that we were going to come right out of the box with massive offers to the biggest names in the business, that's not the way it works. We're trying to figure out for dollars spent what people have done historically, what they've done recently, what they've done earlier. And so we're looking for a couple of different things. One, which would be like a Takk McKinley, who is the 1-year prove-it deal guy who did it for 2 years and then got lost in the woods. All right.
Did you see his presser today?
Yeah, I did. And he was more buoyant than I've seen him in his pressers in Atlanta.
I know. Was that not incredible?
Yeah, it was different. But, again, bro.
I didn't see the press conference, but is he one of these like edge rushers who just get fat and lazy after a couple of years?
Takk McKinley, the story is
news.
2 nice years from him, his first year and his second year. His first year, he wasn't a starter, but he got 6 sacks. His second year was a starter for the Falcons, and he got, 8 sacks. But it got dicey. He got hurt, and his numbers never came back. And by his own admission, he said that he wasn't really, the way he put it, he didn't say he wasn't playing hard, but that's what he meant. That, he was complaining about the fact that teams had made offers for him, for the Falcons to trade him, and they refused to trade him. And he made a big stink about this. And at the same time, he wasn't really putting out very hard on the field. So
you sort of Duke Johnson.
My belief is a guy like this, you take a shot on because there's obviously some talent there, but there's a motivation problem.
Yeah. Well, for $4 million, that's like, I don't know. That's
It's
like a
$1
box
million
of
more than
crackers to
Claiborne.
me.
Yeah. You go ahead and you take a flyer on that guy and you see exactly what happens. But of course, when I heard his presser and in Pat McKinley's press conference with the Browns, he was, upbeat and, but he has to be.
Yeah, everybody that job interviews upbeat, aren't they? For fuck's sake.
Well, at this point, he's got 1 year to prove he belongs to the league. And he's saying all the right things. He's saying that, if he wants to stay in the league, he's going to have to earn it. He's going to have to work for it. And he's saying all the right things now. But so did Josh Gordon, before his reinstatement. We've heard this crap from players so many times. The only way to believe it or not believe it, it's the proof's in the pudding. You put your money on the table for 1 year. This guy shows he can do it or not do it. That's it. Now, the other thing that you're looking for is what we just got with the linebacker.
Love this pickup.
Yeah, this is brilliant, isn't it?
A 1 year deal, not because it's a prove it deal, but because the player believes that he will be of more value after this season as opposed to Tack McKinley, who's holding on by his fingernails. All right. Either way you look at it, yeah, exactly. Any way you look at it, the Browns are trying to seize on opportunities. One, McKinley will be out of the league if he screws up again.
Yeah, if McKinley shows up fat for OTAs, I mean, what are they going to do?
It's boom or bust.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as far as finding yourself a linebacker who's really being spoken of very well.
Oh God, yeah.
As being
and it
a
backs
team
it up.
leader.
His film backs it up.
Being a real team leader and a guy. You know what it reminds me of? Remember Eddie Johnson, the late Eddie Johnson for the Browns?
Yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
Eddie the Assassin.
That kind of guy who just whips everybody up into a frenzy, makes everybody a better player around him. That's what we're dealing with.
And he didn't get the notoriety like Clay Matthews or some of the other lads we had back then.
No, because
a
lot of times they just put their the pedal to the metal. They're just guys with great motors who are intense, and they whip up everybody around in a play harder and play at a faster speed, which God only knows our linebackers need. But 1 year deal in that instance is only so that he can get his big payday a year from now, and it may well not be the Browns who choose to spend the big money for him. But again, we needed a linebacker. We got a good one. So
I think there's a lot of similarities between him and Phillips. They're both guys that can go sideline to sideline. They're both sure tacklers. I mean, I think Walker's a little bit underrated in his coverage. I've actually been pretty impressed with that because it does get talked about. But this is the perfect pickup, and I think what makes this signing a lot more interesting than some of the others is this kind of makes things kind of questionable draft-wise, because now if you're going into the draft and you don't have to pick one position, and I'm sure we'll talk about edge later, but if you don't have to pick one position, you can just go best player available.
That's
so
the
you
whole
don't,
idea, I think.
Yeah. So with this pickup, you got a guy who's young. I think he's like 25. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Great team guy. He's going to be a guy that comes in and helps that room a lot because we have so many young linebackers. I know we're all down on Mac, but I mean, if he can come in and just kind of guide them along, who knows? And honestly, I wouldn't be upset if he has a great year this year and we say, hey, here's 3 years, whatever. Love to keep you around. I'd be thrilled.
Oh,
Yeah.
and they did re-sign Lee, who is their special teams guy.
Right, a special teams player, and that's great. So then there's the other situation, which is Troy Hill. Troy Hill's a guy who I think I kind of upset Derek when I said that was your Terrence Mitchell replacement, and I don't mean that in a negative way. Terrence Mitchell's 28 years of age. Troy Hill is 30 years of age, and is a player who had a really good year last year. Many people thought that he had a Pro Bowl worthy year last year, but he's been in the league long enough and not been a starter. Okay, so he really flashed last year. And now he's gotten a payday for it, and we'll see how he behaves in a system. When he was sitting on, as a second string guy, as a fill-in guy, and was playing fewer snaps, he had a really good chance to look at that system, and they built that system, and he played it very well. We'll see how he plays in the Brown system.
But he's going to be helped by John Johnson.
Yeah, and the reason why I was so high on him, and I think maybe – I wasn't mad necessarily. I was a little bit frustrated because, and I could be wrong, but I thought you were kind of writing him off as like a third or fourth corner that we're just signing. But maybe that's my misunderstanding. But the reason why I was so thrilled when we got him was because he's a guy that plays nickel corner as well. He can play inside and outside, and that frees up so much. Especially when it comes to Greedy, now you don't have to rush him back. And if Greedy's healthy and actually produces like I thought he could when we picked him, then that's a big bonus. Troy Hill's slot coverage grade was first in the NFL in 2019 and 2020. Single coverage was fourth. Passer rating was 8th. So, he's a guy that you're signing. Yeah, he's only started a year or whatever, but last year was incredible. So I think if this relationship he has with Johnson, if you can keep that, I think it's a great get.
Well, the Rams definitely got worse.
Yeah. But here's the thing with cornerbacks, where what about Greedy Williams? Is Greedy Williams ever going to be able to play again?
No. I say he's never going to play again.
So, there's 2 more on the open market now. One is going to be beyond the price the Browns pay.
Yeah, and Kyle Fuller.
Kyle Fuller is one of them, and the other one is the guy who was just released today.
Tennessee.
Oh, yeah. What's it?
Malcolm Butler?
No, there's somebody else.
No, why am I?
There's the guy that's still on the Steelers that wants a trade.
No, Fuller was the one who was just released today.
That's right. It's the squealer.
Yeah, good luck getting the Steelers to trade him to the fucking Browns.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But the question is, you're going to find out, and I was talking to Derek earlier today in text form, and it's like, you're going to find out probably more about Greedy Williams than you are about Troy Hill at this point. You see, if they continue to add corners, then you're going to realize that may have wound up being a pick that is.
And you know what I think it is with that? I agree with you. And you know how much I was a fan of Greedy when we picked him. I'm still not done with him. But to me, it's going to be interesting, and I agree with you, to see how much they are going to put on Greedy because, number one, if they go out and they spend, I'm not saying they're going to spend a lot, but if they spend a decent chunk of change on another corner, that's going to tell you a lot. If they draft a guy in the first round, that's going to tell you a lot. If they pick somebody, late second, third round, fourth round, because this corner draft is pretty stacked, but if they take a corner early, I think that tells you a lot about what they think. But see
that's awards brittle too,
That's true. So, but I could see, because they got Johnson as well as Hill, bringing them in together, I think you're gonna see packages where you're going to see Hill playing outside, Ward playing outside with the three safeties together. And then you're also going to see packages of Ward, Hill in the slot, Greedy on the outside, or whoever they draft or bring in, and then have two safeties. So I think they're going to fluctuate between that group of, secondary players in those packages.
Yeah, and the story with Darius Leonard, bemoaning the loss of Anthony Walker on the Colts. But again, there are people who have stature in a locker room, and this is all something that gets factored analytically into the scheme. We are picking people who we may not have long tentacles around to hold them for a long period of time. Look at what we did with Cody Parkey. We signed him to a 1-year deal, but quite honestly, are they going to bring another kicker into camp? He may not
Probably.
even.
They should.
Yeah, I mean,
They'll probably have 2 or 3 kickers
but they're
because somebody's going to end up on the reserve list for the COVID bullshit.
And from an analytics perspective, he made 11 kicks in the postseason, but we know what his history is. So he only warrants a 1-year deal. On the other hand, you go with JJ3, and that's the guy you're going to want back there. There's a guy who's 25 years of age, and he's just rounding into his prime.
And what a great dude he is. You hear his, you can't learn a whole lot from a press conference, but you can really tell he's a genuine good person.
Yeah.
You can see the leadership.
High character guy. And again, all of this feeds into the process of analytics. So now we'll let the panel speak one by one, and we will start with Tony. Do we think Barry is doing a good job at this point?
I do. They're filling holes that they need, and they're getting talented guys to fill those holes. And, you can't build depth with all proven players. You need to take a shot on guys like Tack McKinley or McKinsey.
It's
McKinley. You need to take a shot on guys like Tack McKinley and the offensive lineman they just signed yesterday or today, Seal or something like that.
Senate?
Yeah.
Well, Senate's a guy who's on our practice.
I'm not paying
He's a
attention.
practice squad guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, and they obviously liked enough of what they saw that he's going to be fighting for a backup. He's going to be one of those guys who will be
it's because Kendall Lamb left.
A guy who can play either position kind of
And
guy.
he'll be thrust into the playoff game when our first 2 guys get hurt at one position.
Yeah,
But
that kind of guy.
it's taking a shot on a guy. If you were able to provide, build a roster with proven guys, you'd be the New York Yankees or the fucking, Brooklyn Nets or whatever. So, it's pretty good, and I would say good job by Andrew Barry because I think the team will be pretty good next year.
Brian?
Yeah, he's done a really good job on getting the right type of players to replace guys that we kind of bagged on all year. And so, with Tony Hill, I believe is an upgrade from Terrence Mitchell. And so I think he's going to fill that role very nicely. Johnson's an instant upgrade over Sendejo, and I don't believe you're going to see as many missed tackles or blown assignments in the secondary. So just by improving the secondary, how many more games would they have won?
Yeah, the only rap on JJ, watched a good amount of film on him, is that he doesn't have good hands. He's not an interception kind of guy. Some guys like Deion Sanders, could just catch the ball like a wide receiver could. He's not that way, but his coverage skills are good.
No, but how many Ed Reeds are there?
Well, again, I'd rather have a guy who's in position who deflects the ball and covers man. Look, Hanford Dixon was not an interception guy. No, but yeah,
Frank Minifield was.
Yeah. They gave up. Tom Darden, right. Years ago, Tom Darden was a catch-it guy, but nobody would throw the ball at Hanford. I mean, he would just shut guys down completely. So, I'd love to have a guy who's good in coverage because we didn't have that last year. And we're going to have some depth, assuming that Delpit gets healthy and if Greedy Williams can participate in any way.
And the biggest complaint we all had, especially you, was foot speed. Well, they're getting faster on the defense
and younger. You look at the defense now. I mean, you're looking at a bunch of guys. It was really funny, with the exception of Troy Hill, that all these people are in not just in their 20s, but in their early 25 would be like JJ3 would be like the older of them. These guys are going to be built up within a system to learn a system and to get acclimated to that system from the time they get started. And that's how you build, So, I'm the team's getting faster, it's getting younger, and it's pushing out some of the people who were, and Terrence Mitchell did a nice job stepping in. I mean, nobody was expecting him.
Yeah, I always liked Terrence Mitchell.
To take that many snaps, I don't think anyone expected that from him. It was a tough year for the Browns last year at that position. But now we're going to finally have more bodies, it looks like, and more qualified bodies. And what Brian said is absolutely right. You can count, if just in the games that we lost, what one stop would have meant in those games in the critical moments.
Can I nail it down a little bit further? It doesn't matter the regular season, just that Kansas City Chiefs game.
Yes.
And the fourth quarter.
They had
there were 2 or 3 plays.
Quarterback, yeah.
They had Chad Henne.
Yeah.
Chad fucking Henne was playing.
Yep. And because they were playing so far off, they let him hit a safety valve, or they let him.
That play doesn't happen if we don't have, if we have the players we've bought now.
People who close to the ball. I mean, Chad Henne never scrambles for that. If we have anybody who's on their toes and is attacking.
And that's the thing. When you have quality talent back there, it changes the other team's game plan, because Chad Henne would see that JJ3 is back there. Maybe I don't want to fucking go for a little ramble for 15 yards. I might get killed. But if he sees Sendejo back there, then he's going to have to take a chance. I mean, I have to address Amsterdam here. He's comparing Stephen Hawking favorably to Sendejo. I would say Sendejo is right up there with Helen Keller as far as coverage skills. But anyway.
Well, and they're both dead, right, Bronk?
And they're both dead. Here's a little joke for you guys. I think this might even be a Moohead joke. What did Helen Keller say when she fell off the cliff?
Nothing.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, when she scars her hands, that's like, that would be like,
Can't
injury.
talk for weeks when she scars her hands. Yeah.
So Bronk, you think Barry's doing a good job?
Barry, I want to have his babies. He's doing that good of a job, for fuck's sake. He is probably the best GM we've had since GMs were invented.
Ernie Corsi?
Yeah.
Now, Derek, I know, I saw your little description that you're a fan of Jesus, and you're
who is it?
You're a good guy. You're a good
love
guy.
Jesus too, don't you, Moohead? Come on, I mean it.
I laugh because I've never heard it put that way. A fan of Jesus.
Yeah. But in a sports reference,
that was Derek crazy about Elvis. Does he love horses and her boyfriend too?
Yeah. Was this as close, Derek, today as a spooge fest as you're going to have? I mean,
spooge.
A spooge fest. I'll tell you, Derek was,
he's still young though. He's allowed to spooge today.
You still riding the sugar high?
Well, as far as today, I was thrilled today. But as far as the whole week, I was a little surprised how slow it started. Not that I was expecting us to go balls to the wall early, but I expected one in like the first hour and a half. We waited a good while to hear something. That surprised me just because of last year and how it was Hooper and then Conklin, and then we kind of waited. I kind of expected that. Um, John Johnson, I don't think I can say enough good things. I mean, to me, everything he brings is just incredible. And if Delpit can get back healthy, and I said this Monday, he is the biggest winner of this signing because it frees him up to be a rover safety to where he can cover tight ends. He can play in the box, or he can just sit back, and cover whoever. And if you go watch his LSU stuff, that's the one thing you'll notice is he's doing a bunch of different things. So John Johnson, love it. Tack McKinley, I know we've talked about. I think this is a guy who he deserves a second chance, in my opinion. I think he's got talent, but I think they're bringing him in as a specific role. I think he's going to be a specific pass rusher that they can put opposite of Miles, because as a pass rusher, he's done a pretty good job. He doesn't have the greatest technique, but he's got the speed and athleticism. He reminds me from a skill set standpoint, and I'm not saying he is, but I'm saying skill set wise, I see a little bit of the Bud Dupree kind of guy where you don't necessarily want him in a run situation, but as a pass guy, it's not bad. The linebacker, love it. We talked about that. Hill, like I said, he's versatile, and that's the biggest thing I think you can say about what Andrew Berry's doing. He's being smart, and he's fitting in the system, but also he's fitting guys in the system that can do multiple different things within the system if one piece goes down. So is Andrew Berry doing a great job? Absolutely, because I think he's blending the John Dorsey side of things of, hey, I like that guy, let's go get him, and hey, let's be smart about it and not do what the Bengals did and spend $60 million on a not proven defensive end when you already have a good guy. So
Yeah, Bronk, I
Yeah.
see your hand is raised.
go ahead.
My hand is raised. Now, the thing about Tapp McKinley is that he was just made instantly better by the fact that we massively upgraded our secondary. If we
Bingo.
actually can cover receivers and tight ends for that extra 1.5 seconds that somebody like Tapp McKinley needs to get to the quarterback, then maybe he'll get some sacks again, where he wasn't getting them in Atlanta. So it's all a team. That's why they call it a team. So if we upgrade one bit of the team, the defense gets the other team off the ball. The offense gets better because they have the ball more. Nick Chubb runs better. And who knows? We might win a fucking playoff game or 2 or 3 or 4.
Yeah. The thing that I found interesting, has BJ Goodson landed anywhere yet, by the way?
No, he's still
Not yet.
Still in
floating
limbo.
around limbo.
Yeah.
How low can you go?
It's interesting because what we have is we've brought on Anthony Walker, who is a real team, really a firecracker out there, right? But we've chosen to keep Malcolm Smith, and who's another guy who has lineage being
Super Bowl MVP, I believe.
That's right.
Yep.
And so what I'm wondering when I see this type of thing is we're going to have two guys, because Malcolm Smith is a leadership guy. So is BJ Goodson, by the way. He was very good in the locker room. But now with Malcolm Smith and with Anthony Walker, you have Phillips. The real question mark is Mac Wilson, who's running out of rope very rapidly. And if they can't get through to Mac Wilson to play the game the right way,
Especially if they draft somebody who's young, because that's the only reason keeping him around is because he's young and he showed something.
Yeah, I mean, Mac Wilson, needs to play much more under control, and he needs to communicate better on the field and off the field. But I find it interesting that when you keep a Malcolm Smith and you bring in an Anthony Walker, what you're really trying to do is put together a room of accountable people who are going to hold others in that room accountable.
Yeah,
And that,
I mean, Walker's like the equivalent of Jarvis Landry as far as, you know, being like doing that and being a leader and working.
Dick around. Yeah, Mac Wilson's not going to be able to dick around like he's been doing, and it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. And I don't know.
I think it'd be fascinating to have a Hard Knocks of this year's Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
You know, done. You know,
Well,
done
luckily
by the
we
Hard
already.
Knocks team. I mean, we got the
Luckily,
building the Browns.
yeah.
Is good. That's a good show. Don't get me wrong, but you know, I think this year will be fascinating in the training camp.
And you know, Moo, I know you have said at least, and I agreed with what you said. You can't change a defense in 1 year, but you know, one thing I said is you can put a Band-Aid over problems and fix them later. It doesn't seem like Andrew Berry's doing a lot of Band-Aid work other than like attack McKinley.
No, the Band-Aid work was last year.
Oh,
Yeah.
God,
Yeah, but I mean,
Browns.
some of these 1 year deals, I guess you could consider it like that. But John Johnson and Hill and just you're not overhauling the defense, but these few moves.
Oh no,
just
they're overhauling
change
the fucking defense.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying I overhaul, yeah, but I'm not saying like long-term overhaul.
Yeah, I get you. It's not a clean wiping a slate clean.
Yes,
So,
but what
fresh.
he's done so far is going. I mean, this defense is going to look nothing like last year. It's
Oh,
going
it's
to be
like a-
completely different.
what
It's like
about
the difference
interior
Conklin and
alignment?
Wills made to the offensive line. I mean, that's what he did last year. So he's done the same to the offensive line last year that he's doing to the defense this year. At least
What
that's
about-
what we all hope.
What about interior linemen? Because stopping the running game is going to be huge for this team. Do you think we're looking at this in the draft more than we are free agency?
Well, there's
Christian
some,
Barrymore, 26. Look for it.
the Alabama guy.
That's the one position that I kind of looked at. You know, when you look at they got safety, they got corner.
Right, but they're gonna get Billings off of the COVID deal, and
Yeah.
they've got Sheldon Richardson as the two frontline guys, and then I think there's two backups,
Jordan Elliott still.
Jordan Elliott, and then there's another guy.
Yeah.
Oh, there's-
we need somebody who really is going to be able to stuff the middle. And it's a lot to ask of Sheldon Richardson, who's getting long in the tooth. And
And his contract's coming to an end. So you got to, I mean, unless you want to keep him, you got to figure that out.
that's right. So, you know, I'm wondering whether the Browns are going to go looking for a lot of younger interior linemen and really have a big fight it out kind of thing in the preseason, as opposed to.
Well, they seem to find the guys that can still play. I mean, you know, they seem to find guys. I mean, what he's done is what Derek said earlier in the program, that Barry has created a situation now with these signings that he can draft at his time the best available player. And if that best available player happens to be a wide receiver or even a running back or quarterback, he could go up there and get them if he thinks that they're the right ones. Even though we don't need them.
Well,
And-
you know, interesting what other teams in our division are doing. The
I
Cincinnati
was just about to
Bengals,
say that.
yeah, the Bengals have signed Riley Reif, the offensive tackle, but released Geno Atkins. I think Geno Atkins is shot. But Riley Reif, I mean, if this were the Cleveland Browns,
But if he was in a rotation with Richardson and Billings, you could actually get some use out of him.
if he were Big Daddy Carl Hairston, you might be right.
Big
You know,
Daddy,
if he has a little bit left in the motor, but you're not going to pay anything for him.
You know, I read that when the Bengals announced they signed Riley Reif, I read that as a different Riley that sounds like Reed.
Riley Reed, the porn star. Yeah.
I read that too quick. I was like, "Whoa, wait a minute, what?"
Oh, okay.
You never
How about splooging?
If there was a team that would happen at, the Bengals are right at the top of the list. So let's be 100%.
Or the Vikings.
If it were the Cleveland Browns who were pimping Riley Reef, who was
Oh, the
4 years
Texans.
with Tony's team,
Yeah.
Texans would be a perfect fit, apparently.
you know, I mean, do you really think that Riley Reef is going to protect Joe Burrow from injury at 32 years of age?
No.
And the fact that
I'm shocked that they didn't go out and I'm really shocked that they didn't immediately go out and sign Schwartz and the other guy from the
Yeah.
Chiefs.
What? So,
Riley Reef is not, a foundational
right.
left tackle. He's a good stopgap left tackle.
He's going to play right tackle. That's been announced. They told him he's going to play right.
Well,
Panay
geez, we had
Sewell
him-
will play left.
we
At
used to have him
5,
at
they'll draft
left
him.
tackle here, but he'll do good for what he's assigned to do. But they better start looking at the draft and
But that's
to get
not,
his
that's
replacement.
not a big signing.
No.
When your quarterback's coming off of ACL repair, I really don't think that Riley Reef is, you want people who are really foundational players like Jedrick Wills. You want
Right.
somebody who you can, a big, burly, guy who just stuffs people.
I mean,
Yeah.
I could see us drafting an offensive lineman at 26. If there's a good one that they like drops to us. I could really see that happening.
I think the
Wow.
only chance they take offense is receiver, and it would have to be somebody they really, really love
Wow.
to feel good
Good
about
spots
it.
out there. I mean,
It could be.
The Bengals did get Larry Ogunjobi as
Mhm.
Yeah, they got Trey Hendrickson, who is the guy that we're, great year, but at a very, this is a huge risk. And this is what I'm talking about analytics wise. You have analytics, then you have water in the brain, Mike Brown. The idea that Hendrickson had 6.5 sacks before 2020, and then suddenly had 13.5 sacks last year for the Saints. Which Trey Hendrickson is going to show up, and if he's mired in
Well,
with a good organization, it's probably the 6.5 sack guy.
Are they going to bring the back seven from the Saints over too? Because
Yeah.
that's how he got that.
But it doesn't make sense when you have a guy like Carl Lawson, who's, in my opinion, better. I don't know about y'all, but I would much rather have Carl Lawson than Hendrickson. I think I made that clear Monday.
I think a
Why
lot of
wouldn't
people feel that way.
Why
But
wouldn't you
you-
just pay him?
But you don't know how disgruntled he was by the time his contract was up. I mean, you can only take so much fucking losing.
And
Then he
that's
goes
what
to the Jets.
Hendrickson's going to run into a situation where he realizes where he is with Mike Brown. The thing that's scary about all of this is that you want to talk about flying by the seat of your pants. They let Ryan Finley go. They don't have a backup quarterback in Cincinnati right now.
Which is why I'm surprised they didn't sign. They weren't the ones to give Fitzpatrick the 1 year, $10 million.
I think they
Yeah,
already had him at one point.
And, you have to believe that a guy coming off ACL reconstruction is a risk. And but as we sit right now, the Bengals have no backup quarterback whatsoever. And
How about
they-
Trubisky to Buffalo? Wasn't that kind of interesting?
it's the end of the road for Trubisky. I mean,
That's him admitting that he's not a frontline quarterback.
but he's still going to get paid to
He's going to get paid.
yeah. I
He's
mean,
going to be sitting on the sidelines eating Polish hot dogs.
that's exactly right. But I mean, none of us were high on Trubisky, even though he had Northeast
He's been a
Ohio
mentor.
connections. Nobody was that high on him. And,
I saw a video of. Oh, hi, Stephanie A. Smith in the background. I saw a video of Trubisky draft time, and they had a Browns helmet, and they said, put this on. It looked great, and I'm like, whoo,
Oh,
man, that was
That's a
thank God on that one.
That's a bullet we dodged there.
No
Now,
kidding.
when I look at Mitchell Trubisky, it just makes me think of Charlie Fry. There are lots of guys who, and the Browns actually, signed Charlie Fry to a multi-year deal. Can you believe that they did that? I mean, an underpowered arm. I never felt that Trubisky had the kind of arm that coming out of college that would have made him. And they say, well, he is mobile. Well, not compared to really mobile quarterbacks in the game today. He's not.
Like the Browns just signed Charlie. You made it sound like they just signed him. I was like, wait a minute.
No, Charlie Fry's dead, as far as I know.
Everybody's dead.
Yeah, everyone's dead. Mike Hilton signs with the Bengals, and that's he was an undrafted free agent. He was in 59 games in 4 years with the Steelers. He did a nice job there. There's not a ton of risk associated with this deal like there was with Hendrickson, but the Bengals need to get better in so many different ways that it's, a guy like Ogunjobi. I got nothing against Larry Ogunjobi, but he just wasn't productive enough here.
And he's hardly a team leader, is he?
What number did they get him? I never saw the contract. Do you know?
Who?
Larry.
What was?
I don't know. He was 65 here, but I don't know what he's going to be for the.
No, you mean the monetary number?
How much money? Why do I want to say that it was a 1 year, 2.6 mil? Does that ring a bell to anybody?
Maybe
you can look
it sounds right.
And the thing that was disappointing is that Ogunjobi looked like he was going to be a much more physical player. And we have a tendency when we talk about interior linemen to think in terms of Michael Dean Perry, and Larry Ogunjobi never lived up to that. So
1 year, 6.2 million with 4.6 guaranteed.
Oh, okay. I was dyslexic and I got my numbers backward.
Michael Dean Perry was 30 fucking years ago.
Yeah. But he got into the backfield. I'll tell you that. And now the Steelers, Juju Schuster just shits the bed, doesn't go to Kansas City to establish himself there, and instead comes back for the end of Ben. And, it's, and it took less money to do it, and he's happy. And he can be dancing on logos all he wants. There's going to be a lot of fucking people dancing on Pittsburgh.
So who are we going to get first week of this season? Are we going to get the Steelers or the Ravens again?
I'm going with the Ravens. I think they're going to do that to the Browns right off the bat.
They got a lot worse. The Ravens got a lot worse.
I mean, and then for
not offensively.
No, but defensively, and that was what their best was.
Hey, maybe we'll get the Vikings first week.
It's been bandied about, Bronx. They're talking about changing the whole game up and doing no divisionals right away.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the Ravens have just not gained ground. The Steelers are losing ground. The Bengals just have so much to fill that they might be a tough out if Burrow and his receivers,
Well, they need to run the ball. If they don't run the ball, give the poor guy a break.
That's why
he can't throw 70 times and expect to live.
Well, they got Riley Reef. What can I tell you?
Riley Reef
try to open holes, but I mean, they got a lot that they're going to have to draft. The Cleveland Browns, meanwhile, are for the most part staying very pat with their offense, which is what we figured would happen. And what they needed to do was to
Topaz, Tupac's brother.
I'm sorry.
I said Topaz, Tupac's brother.
Yeah, I think that it's going to. It's the right moves the Browns are making, and we'll see what little things we can the sprinkles on top of the Sunday for the offense. You got a guy like JoJo Natson, who I think today's
great name, and it's like a 60s name.
Yeah, JoJo Natson, his leg folded under him, and I think it will again. He's just so undersized. I don't know.
Were you surprised about Njoku?
How so?
What getting extended?
Well,
I'm accepted.
At 4:00, his money became guaranteed. So that's if they were going to trade him, it seemed like it would have been beforehand.
Yeah, if there
They might still could.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, they're going to go with the 3 tight ends, though. They're going to go with
Cooper and Bryant. And
yeah, I mean, it's
so
the way it works. And again, what the Browns are saying is they're not going to listen to the player whining and pulling a Tack McKinley. They're not going to, and if Njoku decides to be a distraction, then he just won't play. And you can bet that there will be a third tight end taken in the draft, somewhere in that draft. And I guarantee it, because they're not, even if they designate him practice squad or whatever, there's going to be a third guy in the equation, because Njoku is consistently inconsistent and his attitude is again questionable, and nobody wants to have to.
Did you see the text between him and Mary Kay?
oh God!
Oh my gosh! Oh, it was so funny. I actually laughed because I'm not a big fan of Njoku's attitude and how he's kind of, passive aggressive, hated Cleveland there for a while. But he, Mary Kay, basically, I think it was Instagram. I don't even think she texted him, which is kind of strange. But anyway, it said like, "Hey David, this is Mary. I'm just reaching out to see if you still want traded, yada yada yada." And he responds, he goes, "Do you want to play PUBG, which is a video game?" And she gives him this, BS answer. "No, but my son will." And he goes, "Well, if you're not interested in playing with me, then I have no interest in talking to you."
Her son's probably your age, if not older, Derek. She's not a young woman.
And the
Probably
thing,
25 or so.
the thing is that look, David Njoku is not going to make or break the Cleveland Browns. I mean, that's
neither did Farrell Brown when he was here.
When you're a tight end, it makes a damn bit of difference to the history of the NFL. When Antonio Gates,
Russ Francis,
John Mackey.
but during the Antonio Gates period of the NFL history,
Brent Jones,
you have a guy who everyone says that's the future guy. He's a guy who played basketball. You see, that's the future. And so we ended up getting Jordan Cameron, remember?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
So it was all the rage to get tight ends who had played basketball.
Yeah, Ricky Seals-Jones recently, remember?
Yeah, I mean, guys who can go up above guys to make catches and things of that nature. And when there was real value for those players. But in today's game, you look at the most successful tight ends, and they're not people who are whipping you downfield. I mean, fucking Gronk is still a force in the league. I mean, you look at for the Ravens, who's their tight end?
Mark Andrews.
Mark Andrews, yeah. I mean, these are not guys who are the swiftest, best athletes on the field.
Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, these are rugged guys.
Did we have
Travis Kelce's a freak of nature, but
did we have Mark Bavaro for a while back in the
We
day?
did actually have him for a short
We
while.
had him
Yeah, right at the end of his career.
Yeah.
He was used up by the Giants and the Bears.
But, now is not that time, and Njoku just has to understand that the economics of this, what it amounts to, is that people are not paying big money for athletic tight ends who don't want to block. And so he has to learn how to block, and he's not going to be featured. And what the Browns have to understand, and this goes for OBJ, for Juice Landry, and Rashard Higgins, is that they're not going to have a spotlight put on them either. The idea of a truly balanced football team is you don't know where they're going to go. And at its best, it fools teams into forgetting about DPJ, or it, or it makes somebody forget about, Kareem Hunt in the backfield. And you get a little swing pass that can get 25 yards,
Or Harrison Bryant underneath.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you got so many different people you can go to, and it isn't like there's this one superstar, but it's evenly spread out. And I think that is what the Browns have tried to accomplish. And by bringing more of these team guys into the different rooms of the positional room, this is what you get.
Tony.
You got to know exactly what you're.
There's got some video going in the background.
Tony, it's coming from you. I can see your circle moving.
What?
You
Quit
got
playing music.
Whoa!
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, it
He's
happened.
got porn on in the other window. He's not watching this. He's got Robert Reed.
We're already at 7 o'clock, and this is just show you how quickly time flies. But I did
Oh,
want,
you're having fun.
yeah,
Something to
There
talk
is-
about.
there's two stories that I wanted to get out of here with.
Really?
The one is we were talking before the program about the March Madness, which was always my favorite time of the year, and I haven't watched college basketball because
Hey, Minnesota is the only state that did not have a single college represented in March Madness. It was like one of the few states, along with like North Dakota, South Dakota, New Mexico. That's it.
yeah,
Cleveland State could beat Houston. That'll cheer up Steven.
the whole COVID thing has just kind of mashed up the season for me, and I just haven't really gotten into it. But
Yeah, now that Ohio State's out, I'll just root for Cleveland State the rest of the way.
Oh, that'd be hilarious.
But-
Go Vikings.
yeah, but for the the college game in general, it was always more fun watching March Madness to see if Drexel could beat whoever, is a 16 beating a 1. But college football, which Derek knows that I don't really follow very closely, and I have a problem with the way that college football is run. What we were saying before the show is there's a damn better chance of Oral Roberts beating Ohio State, of course, in the NCAA March Madness than there is of Utah State beating Alabama on a football field. And it's too predictable for me. The headline that caught my eye was Jacksonville Jaguars coach Urban Meyer says NFL free agency system is not good business. And
Did you see who he brought in? Carlos Hyde.
Idiots.
Yeah, Carlos Hyde, he would.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, Urban Meyer,
He's got tumor in his fucking head, man.
yeah, you know what not good business is? It's not knowing business, because college football is not business. It's authoritarian. College football, you hold all the leverage over the young people, and they don't get any money. They don't get any payment of any sort. And if you
Well, hopefully
the
that's
coach-
changing now.
And
And
the
if you
coach is the
sit him
highest public servant paid in the entire state.
And if you get, if you say something that somebody doesn't like, you just get sat down and forgotten about, and they eat the scholarship. They get so many of them, and people can just walk on the Ohio State football campus, and they can get every blue chip guy. It's not that way. You're in Jacksonville now, coach. And in Jacksonville and with the NFL rules, you just can't tamper. You cannot talk with players previous to this whole thing. It's not legal. You talk to their agents. You don't talk to them. So every little trick that Urban Meyer ever knew about college football
Doesn't transfer over.
doesn't translate. And why he's complaining about it, look, you took the job in the NFL. Here's the quote from Urban Meyer. Yeah, it's awful. I don't agree with it. No one asked my opinion. I guess in the old days, you could bring them in and meet them, have dinner with them, and you could find out their football intellect, find out their character. The thing you don't do, I found out, is call someone who has skin in the game because they're going to not quite I don't see honest as a very appropriate word. So we did a deep dive. Every guy that we signed, we tried to look into their background. To answer the question, he went on, it's awful, and I don't believe it should be done that way. Not when you're making organizational decisions. I'm not sure how that rule came about, but to me, that's not good business. And what I'm going to say is you may not be a very good coach when you don't have all the leverage over players.
Yeah, it could be like
The other thing is Brad Stevens. We watched the Cavaliers whip on the Celtics this last game. The Celtics had countless opportunities to get back into the game when it was just hanging at a 3-point differential. And somehow the Cavaliers managed to get on top of them in the end and beat them. The word is that Brad Stevens is going to go to the University of Indiana. And this guy who is looked upon as the wunderkind of young NFL.
You were high on him yourself like 2 years ago. You were massive Brad Stevens dick sucker. Jesus, yeah.
Well, and let me tell you something.
You were.
Let me explain.
All right, well,
He
I'm
got
disagreeing with you.
players to play the right way, but try doing it for long.
Exactly.
And
Or trying doing it with Kyrie Irving on your fucking
he
team.
is a good coach if the players stay in their lane. The problem is you've got Tatum, and once they become more privileged and the NBA starts hyping them and using them as part of the big marketing machine, they want to go off their own way and do it their own way. And they want the ball one-on-one at the end of the game. And, they saw Kyrie blow into town, and Kyrie is like cancer. He, honest to God, is. I mean, you want to talk about the absolute worst.
He is worse than Ron Rivera for cancer, let me tell you.
Yeah, we talk about good character guys in the room, and having guys who are, like Anthony Walker and guys like Malcolm Smith. The exact diametric opposite would be Kyrie Irving, who only gives a shit about himself. And that's what rubbed off. So now you've got a bunch of players who are running willy-nilly, not playing team ball, not doing the grunge work they need to get done. And that's the end of Brad Stevens. And you're seeing the same thing with Bickerstaff in Cleveland. It isn't that he doesn't know what to do. It's A, he doesn't have quite enough weapons. And two, you're going to tell Colin Sexton that it's not in his best interest to score 26 points a night. And Colin's more upset about not making the All-Star team than he is about playing for a team that loses, virtually every time they go out on the floor. You've got Darius Garland, who wants to pass the ball, Colin Sexton, who wouldn't in a million years. You've got Jetty Osman. They can't stop him from playing dribble queen. He's like Marcus Haynes from the Globetrotters, but with stumps for hands. I've never seen anybody turn the ball over this frequently. And
that wasn't wearing a Washington General uniform.
Wow.
You lose. And that what happens to players is they become selfish. And now we see the Celtics going down the crapper because their players are getting to a point where they're ready for free agency and they're going to be ready to move on for their big money so that they can go to a team that where they can be the big names. And you don't see coaches coming into teams and making a difference. The day of Popovich is gone. It's
I think part of the problem is that the season's just too damn long. It's like 82 fucking games, and these guys, if they're not like at the top two teams in each conference, they get bored and they got this money, and the coach can't tell them what to do. And there's no incentive to play properly.
Kind of breaking news, even though it's not officially broke yet. Josina Anderson is saying that the Giants talks with wide receiver Kenny Galladay are heating up, expecting news soon. So,
the last thing I want to say before I get out of here. I always felt that with basketball, if you had talent, Kevin Porter Jr., you're going to get an opportunity. Whether you can take advantage of it is another story altogether. But if you have talent, there are going to be a lot of teams who are going to keep you around for a period of time, even if you're on 3 or 4 different teams, if you show you have talent. But there's one sport that doesn't really give a flying fuck about talent, and that's baseball, especially in Cleveland. There is no prove me contract for the Cleveland Indians because the Cleveland Indians only give a flying fuck about whether they have one more option on a player or if they're running out. Can you believe that right now we have Bobby Bradley, who I'm not telling you is he's a really poor
game. Oh, no, that's Milton Bradley. Sorry.
Yeah, poor defensive first baseman, but he can hit the ball for power. And Jake fucking Bowers, who,
Bowers.
But
it's
Jake
like Ryan with,
Jake Bowers has not hit anywhere. He's been in the league, and it's been many, many years, and he hasn't hit.
We need maniac to describe Jake Bowers.
But he has no more options left. And it's like, good, get rid of him. We don't need him. He doesn't add anything to the team. But, and now we're going to find out what happens between Bobby Bradley, who's had a big spring, and Bowers, who's, done nothing as he's always done. The thing that killed me is Daniel Johnson getting sent to AAA. He's the guy who is supposed to be in the mix in center field. But you see, we have built up all of the bad projects in Cleveland so that, we have Zimmer, who's playing more like the third base coach of the
Don Zimmer.
Yeah, Don is.
He's got a Zimmer frame to walk around in.
Yeah,
Don Popeye Zimmer.
Yeah, but so Zimmer's not doing shit, and here's Daniel Johnson hitting 360. 368 to be exact, in spring with 2 dingers and 4 RBIs in 9 games. And they said that under normal circumstances, he'd have been in the running for the center field job if the spring schedule had not been shortened due to the pandemic. What does this have to do with the price of tea in China? Instead, they take Ahmed
Rosario. He can't.
No, we put Ahmed Rosario into center field, and he's never played there in his life. And in his first game, he made 3 errors. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. The ownership of the Cleveland Indians needs to be replaced. It doesn't make sense. I mean, I'm not saying that any of these players are going to help you win games, but I mean, Jesus, are we not about rewarding people who produce? What's the use of spring training if you're going to go there and look good and just get shit on?
It was better when it was COVID out last year. It was a better game, 60 games.
And listen, and here's what Francona said. Yeah, he had a really good camp. He was very disappointed, and we knew that was going to be the case. Yeah, well, of course you knew, because you're sitting there because the type of analytics, this is not analytics. This is the almighty dollar. And the idiot owner of the Cleveland Indians just wants to have one more option on somebody. And so help me God, if Jake
they are the old LA Clippers
of
the 80s and 90s. They're out to make a profit. They're not out to actually do anything.
I mean, Gabe Paul used to do the same shit back in the 60s. So
I've seen it for too long with the organization, and I'm telling you right now that if Jake Bowers makes the roster and Bobby Bradley gets sent down to AAA, there will be no talk of this team.
No, I've not listened to a single game.
I did no, and I haven't watched any of the preseason games whatsoever. Why should I?
It's a waste of time.
And the same thing happened to Hembry, who's a 32-year-old veteran who had arm trouble but has come back nicely. The guy had thrown a 1.42 earner on average in spring training, and they sent him packing. They sent him packing, saying the same thing. Well, didn't get a long enough look at him because of the limit of games and spring training. And it's like they're going to bring these assholes out there, who you got one guy who's already 39, 40 years old, and you're bringing him back. And you wait till you see the glorious bullpen that they're putting together in Cleveland. Yeah. So anything where talent or hard work or improvement isn't rewarded, I don't want to have anything to do with it. I'm finished with it.
Maybe the Twins will even do this year.
Yeah. Well, I got to get out of here. I got to get the heck out. It's 7:17, and that means
Massive bonus move.
17 minutes of bonus Moohead. We will be back again on Monday to talk about more of the fallout in the free agency and what else maybe lands in our laps. You just don't know this time of the year. Thanks everybody for tuning in. And if something happens, we're not the place you're going to get the news. And I'm not going to, as soon as it hits the wire, I'm not going to Mary Kay Cabbage had it and suddenly turn on my YouTube channel.
Like I do.
Oh, no. I mean, that need is filled. This is commentary program. We'll have plenty to talk about on Monday, I guarantee you. So thanks.
Enjoy your day.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be back again come Monday. Until then, hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Good night.
All feeders